to confronting ISIS. Kieran?
And with me on the program now, we have the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, Josh Frydenberg, and the Parliamentary Secretary to the Shadow Treasurer, Ed Husic. Gentlemen, horrific news to start our discussion this morning, isn't it, Josh?
Absolutely. This is another vicious act of bastardry, Kieran, and it's a reminder that we need to redouble international efforts to tackle ISIS and to stop their advance in Iraq and in Syria. I think everybody, regardless of your politics, regardless of your religion, would find these acts of violence abhorrent and a reminder of really the threat that we face.
And the concerning thing here is, Ed, they've got another journalist, apparently a British journalist, who they say will be next.
And that is horrific in itself, and as Josh said, abhorrent. I can't believe that the images we're seeing. I'd point out as well that there'd probably be a responsibility with the people who maintain that social media to think at what point do they weigh up their complete adherence to freedom of material that's shown on their platforms versus what this is doing in a broader sense. Almost, if I would, providing a platform for people to put this out there and have mimicked acts as well. I think this is terrible to watch. It'd be terrible for young people to see this and comprehend what's going on. And we were talking during the break about the prospect of other journalists being caught in this. You were mentioning that there are other journalists who are being caught in Syria, and I'd hate to think that would happen. I couldn't agree more with Josh. This is something that we have to work closely together on to clamp down. It has no place anywhere.
Well, Josh, the point that Ed makes there is a relevant one in terms of recruiting as well, isn't it? Because this group, this extremist death cult, as the Prime Minister calls it, has been able to be so successful in recruitment because of what's coincided, and not just this entity, but I suppose extremism generally, with the digital revolution. They're able to access and promote and recruit so easily.
And extremists, whether they're in Australia or London or Paris, are making their way to Syria and Iraq to join this group. So we have a responsibility here through our intelligence services and our law enforcement agencies to work with local religious communities to ensure that people who may have extremist views are not allowed to leave Australia, and that they are made to pay a price if indeed they do go over there and try to come back here.
Labor supports the airdrops. The first one was successful to the Kurds last night. We were advised by the Defence operations. It looks like there'll be more to come in terms of the military hardware beyond just the humanitarian exercise. Do you have any concerns about that at all in terms of the implications of having now an expanded military role there?
The big concern is that this, the type of things that we're seeing and the barbarism that's taking place on the ground continues. So the humanitarian effort and the relief work that's being done to avoid potential escalation in genocide has been critical. And so we've been very supportive of the government in its efforts, working with our partners to deal with this. And I think that we need to go through that process before obviously making any assessment about whether or not our involvement escalates, but we've certainly been supportive of the PM making a statement to Parliament as he did the other day, and for us to continue supporting those efforts to ensure, like I said, that we don't have repetition of the type of genocidal behaviour and activity that's been going on.
Now, the Foreign Minister, you've heard what Ed Husic had to say there. Foreign Minister Julie Bishop told the party room yesterday that Labor has strapped itself to the government on national security, that the left faction of Labor is gritting its teeth in supporting the government in terms of national security. Given what you've heard from Ed and also the opposition leader, it's pretty emphatic.
Well, I absolutely welcome Labor's support for the government's commitments in this area and recognise we do need bipartisanship here, and so far Bill Shorten has absolutely given us that. We have been part of multinational efforts in terms of the humanitarian drops. As you point out, we're now providing small arms and ammunition into the Kurdish areas because we recognise that good people just can't stay on the side here, Kieran. When you have innocent women and children in particular, who are facing very desperate circumstances, and bloodthirsty terrorists in the form of ISIS making their advances rapidly. We just can't stay on the sidelines.
Did the Foreign Minister say to the party room that the national security is a strength for the coalition and that Labor had strapped itself to the government on these
Well, as you know,
matters?
we don't comment on party room matters, but the government is making its decisions around national security based on what is needed at this time. And the Prime Minister has been unequivocal about Australia's commitment to humanitarian support and other support if it is needed. And this is an area where he has promised to consult with the opposition, and we believe that we will take the required action to protect the security of people who are most in need.
If there are political implications out of the national security focus, I guess that's just inevitable, but you'd have very little to be critical of the Prime Minister about, wouldn't you?
No, it's been important that, pick up on a line that Josh expressed a few moments, good people can't stand on the sidelines. We do have a responsibility, in effect, to work with our partners to ensure that we don't see this happen, that we just don't stand by and see genocide occur. I do take on board the points of President Obama, as expressed in the last week, that countries in the region will also need to step up their efforts in dealing with this problem, and to ensure that we don't have this escalate. As for Foreign Minister Bishop's comments, I'm disappointed in hearing those, but I think we need to focus not on the politics but on the broader issues at play here. And the broader issues are at play that we've got a group of people that want to enforce their view, their barbaric view of the world, on the rest of us, and we shouldn't abide that. And we have better values, better standards, and a better way of doing things.
I was going to say, I don't think we can criticise Julie Bishop one iota here. I mean, she has been steadfast as the face of the country together with Tony Abbott in very difficult times, and she has been working over time with our international counterparts to see a proper response here, and her overriding interests are in seeing Australia respond to the people who most need our support.
A quick break on AIM Agenda, back in just a moment.
There's lots of uses for Dettol Glen 20 outside the bathroom. It also kills 99.9% of germs and viruses like athlete's foot fungus and the common cold virus. It also eliminates odour-causing bacteria on surfaces in the bedroom and living room. And it kills the source of mould allergens here and here. Dettol Glen 20. One spray, 101 uses.
The mighty Ziegler & Brown Triple Grill, with 3 powerful stainless steel burners to give you 3 heat zones for greater barbecuing versatility. From extra low heat for slow roasting, right through to high heat to finish pork crackling, and a solid hot plate for breakfast, a cast iron baking dish for roasts, a ceramic pizza stone for crispy pizzas, a wok for yummy Asian stir fries. It's the complete barbecue system, the award-winning Ziegler & Brown Triple Grill. Choose the Ziggy that's right for you, only at Barbecues Galore.
So you've heard about funeral insurance, but you figure, what do you need it for? You don't want some big fancy funeral with thousands of flowers or a stretched limo for your loved ones. Well, you'd be surprised to know that even a basic funeral costs around $6,000 these days, and many Australian families just don't have that kind of money handy. So it's great to give your loved ones a helping hand with funeral insurance from Insurance Line. They make funeral insurance easier to afford with premiums that are guaranteed never to go up. That means you can count on your premiums to stay the same and not go up every year as you get older, like with many other funeral insurers. And your family will have the money fast when they need it, usually within 24 hours of lodging a complete claim. Plus, you know you can count on Insurance Line because they're Australia's #1 choice for direct life insurance. So call Insurance Line on 13 13 38 and get funeral insurance today.
The world abounds with many delights, magical sights, fanciful flights, and those who dream on beautiful nights dream of beautiful things. The world is full of beautiful things, beautiful people too, beautiful people like you.
This is AM Agenda. Thanks for your company. With me this morning, Ed Husick and Josh Frydenberg. Josh, first to you on the mining tax. Is that not I know the government's saying it's not adversely affecting people's retirement savings, but the industry says that there'll be $128 billion less in retirement savings over the next decade because of the deal done by the government with Clive Palmer.
Well, Kieran, this is a very welcome development, not just for the government but for the country, and it shows that we can do business with this Senate. I mean, firstly, the budget bottom line will improve by $50 billion over the next 10 years. Secondly, we're sticking to our election commitments, namely to get rid of the mining tax after getting rid of the carbon tax. Don't forget, the mining tax, when it was originally conceived by Ed's colleagues in Labor, was expected to bring in $49.5 billion. It's just brought in $340 million from 20 employers up to date. So there was $17 billion worth of expenditure on a tax that has brought in just $340 million. So we had to take action. And then the third point
is it honouring that promise by breaking another one?
We're not breaking
in terms of adversely affecting super.
We're not breaking
super
any.
funds, believe
We're just delaying the introduction of the compulsory super. But the point here is, what is Labor's alternative, Kieran? You know, they have isolated themselves together with the Greens in the Senate because you're not part of any deals. You're not part of any deals.
Same group who refers to
and you
involve themselves in the cross-party.
stick to your unfunded promises. Unfunded promises.
Well, first thing is, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this line that's coming out of the coalition. Labor doesn't deal themselves in. When we wanted cross-party action on climate change, who were the group? The only group within the parliament that refused to deal with one of the biggest issues facing the country and the globe? These guys. So I'm not going to have this go and deal yourself in. What we've seen yesterday is effectively a massive slug on the retirement savings of Australians. I mean, we keep being told, ever since the Howard government, of the huge demographic wave that's going to engulf finances in the future, which is the greying, the ageing of our population. And so having a good, strong superannuation scheme, very important to that. They're not only cutting the age pension and the indexation arrangements around it, but now they're attacking super savings that are generated by people to lift the load off the age pension. And so if you look at the stats now, it says that roughly a 25-year-old typically earning $55,000 a year will be about $9,500 worse off down the track by 2025. So the issue we have is that this is another broken promise. We were told no cuts to health, broke that promise. No cuts to education, broke that promise. No higher ed fees, broke that promise. And they promised 14 times that they wouldn't undertake any adverse changes to super. I mean, if we had a political fair trading system in this country, the Australian public would be right to take a class action out on the coalition for the number of broken promises and failures to deliver on what they've said.
So the only time that you're now talking about fairness is when the Senate has taken a decision which is not in your best political interest, not in the economy's best interest, but in your political interest.
It's not in the economy's interest to have a pool of savings that continues to grow. The estimates, as you pointed out, Kieran, between 128 billion and 50 billion in national savings used for infrastructure spend gone in the blink of an eye because of this vote in the Senate. So it harms the economy longer term, and you know it.
But it was none other than your leader, Bill Shorten, who said that this super was coming out of people's wages. So the fact that there will be delayed introduction of 12%...
but that argument goes to the whole merits of compulsory super. Does the coalition support compulsory super or not?
Absolutely.
Well then, so why go back to this argument? Because surely it's a benefit to have rising wages and rising super.
Yeah, but the point, as Bill Shorten said, is that by lifting
You're the
this
government,
compulsory super, but we're making this point, and he's backing up our point, which is that the compulsory super was being taken out of people's savings. So we're going to put more money in the pocket of workers by virtue of these changes.
Oh, so you're in favour of that now?
Plus,
you're in favour of putting more money in
plus we are going to improve the books, and when you improve the books by paying $50 billion of Labor's debt over the next 10 years, you're going to have less interest.
Well, Bill,
hang on a second.
Richard, I've got this quote
Less
here.
interest bill.
I just want to read you what Bill Shorten did say, because he said what will happen is that superannuation, he said this in 2012 when he was a minister, the increases to superannuation will be absorbed as part of people's pay rises. So if they get a pay rise, part of that will go into a the superannuation increase. Therefore, what Josh is saying is what Bill said a couple of years ago, and that is that people will have more take-home pay, essentially.
So two things. First, people get that there is you save now to get better savings in the future. That is, that you're putting away money now to ensure that in retirement you've got an adequate retirement income. People get that, right? But we've now got the coalition championing wages. I mean, they have a ginger group within their ranks that is championing cuts to penalty rates, that want to see a reduction in take-home pay.
This is politics of distraction.
And now that, no, it's not actually, because the ginger groups that have been set up by the coalition, we've already had effect on the RET. They were pushing for changes to the RET. They've got it. They're pushing for changes to penalty rates. We'll see cuts to take-home pay. And now they're saying they're worried about people's take-home pay because of super changes and increases in the levy. Hard to believe.
Rather than to go into your old chestnut of industrial relations, why don't we actually talk about this success of what has just happened yesterday in the Senate with the abolition of the mining tax? We took to the election a commitment to get rid of the carbon and the mining taxes, and we've done it. We took to the election a commitment to stop the boats, and we've done it. We took an election to the election a commitment to build the infrastructure of the 21st century. We're doing it. We took to the election a commitment to cut $1 billion of red tape. We're doing it. And we took to the election a commitment to finalise free trade agreements with Korea and Japan and hopefully China. But this is where we are getting action, even with this difficult Senate. And I think that's a big tick to Erica Betts, Matthias Cormann, Ian Macfarlane, and of course the Prime Minister for the work that they've done.
And I wouldn't want to credit Tony Abbott with Cool, but they've probably cranked up the R&B classics. You know, Peaches and Herb reunited, him and Clive back in an embrace.
You prefer a hung parliament, don't you?
What's interesting, I'll end on this point. You know, Clive Palmer.
You'll end on this point, thank you. It's a one-man show, is it?
Clive Palmer said a few days ago here that he still believed that politicians shouldn't be paid. Right? This is actually an insight to his thinking. He doesn't need the money. Right? His view. He comes in here self-funded, he's independently wealthy, he doesn't need the money. So when he's making decisions about whether or not people's super's cut, like the impact of him siding with the government is nearly 2 months of lost pay for people that I represent.
Ed has just made my point. He's attacking now Clive Palmer because Labor is isolated in the Senate.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're out of time. Please stay with us.
This show should be longer, you know.
That's right.